So let's start by rewinding back to 1991. MTV is at its peak. Hip-hop is breaking into the mainstream, and one track becomes the anthem of the moment. Ice, Ice Baby. This song didn't just top the charts. It made history as the first ever rap song to hit #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. The song blasted out of every radio, shopping mall, and school dance in America. Vanilla Ice wasn't just famous, he was everywhere. So Hollywood saw this and thought, hey, why don't we just put this guy in a movie and make a couple $1,000,000? And just like that, the 1991 Cool as Ice movie was born. The pitch was simple. A romantic drama where Ice rides a motorcycle, wears bomber jackets, and charms a small-town girl. Throw in a cameo from supermodel Naomi Campbell, and what could possibly go wrong? Universal Pictures spent around $6 million making it. I mean, they just expected his fan base to fill up the theaters. But nope, it was not the easy box office success they expected. In fact, Cool as Ice was a complete embarrassment. The film grossed less than $1.2 million worldwide. Critics said it felt more like a 90-minute music video than an actual film. Even his loyal fans were smart enough not to take the bait. And the film, well, that destroyed any chance Vanilla Ice had at a real Hollywood career. So here's what's weird. I was around at the time and never even heard about this film. Which is so strange because 1991 was when Vanilla Ice was at the peak of his popularity. Anyway, next up is Nothing But Trouble, also from 1991. On paper, this looked like a sure thing. Dan Aykroyd was fresh off Ghostbusters, Chevy Chase was a comedy legend, and Demi Moore, she was riding high from the massive success of Ghost. The studio gave them a big budget of $40 million. And this gave them freedom to make the horror comedy of their dreams. But Dan Aykroyd, who directed and co-starred, went all in on grotesque makeup, bizarre sets, and a plot that made absolutely no sense. So what happened? Well, the audience hated it. The movie only made about $8.5 million back. Even the cast later admitted it was a disaster. Critics were confused if it was supposed to be scary or funny, and most said it was neither. Today, Nothing But Trouble is often ranked as one of the weirdest, most off-putting comedies of the decade. And it absolutely buried any chance Aykroyd had at directing again. Then came Hudson Hawk, also in 1991. Bruce Willis was at the peak of his fame after Die Hard, and he decided to make a movie that blended action, comedy, and even musical numbers. The budget soared to $65 million, but instead of being a blockbuster, it turned into a vanity project. The plot was so strange and smug that audiences were confused. The movie grossed $97 million worldwide, but with heavy marketing costs, it was still a loss. Critics called it incoherent and self-indulgent, and Willis took years to recover his box office credibility. But the real tragedy was Michael Lemmon, who directed the movie, because his career never fully recovered. The film was such a disaster that it completely ended his shot at ever being able to direct another big Hollywood blockbuster. So this film essentially forced him to go back to directing smaller films and TV shows. Now let's talk about Showgirls in 1995. MGM marketed it as a bold adult drama that would push boundaries. With a $45 million budget and rising star Elizabeth Berkley taking a lead role, it was supposed to launch her career into superstardom. Especially since she was just coming out of her long, yet very successful stint on the popular TV show Saved by the Bell. And all the signs looked good that this would catapult her into megastardom. Instead, it turned into one of the most mocked movies of all time. Showgirls only made $37 million at the box office. But can anyone explain why she suffered the most for the failure of the movie? I mean, she didn't write, produce, or direct the movie. She just starred in a role that was offered to her, and through no fault of her own, her career ended overnight. And to pour even more salt in the wound, the movie later found success on VHS and DVD and became a cult classic. But in the 90s, it was seen as an embarrassing disaster. And Berkley? She never fully recovered. Hollywood closed its doors, and she spent the rest of her career in small TV roles, forever remembered for the film that ended her big screen ambitions. Then there's The Postman in 1996. Kevin Costner was already recovering from Waterworld when he decided to direct and star in another 3-hour post-apocalyptic epic. The movie cost about $80 million, but only made $20 million worldwide. Critics called it long, boring, and self-important. So here's the thing. Kevin Costner was already linked to one of the biggest flops of the 1990s with Waterworld in 1995. Waterworld has a massive budget of around $170 million and was plagued by production issues and delays. While it eventually made back its money worldwide, the huge costs and negative press seriously damaged Costner's reputation as both a director and star. So, the failure of The Postman just further cemented Costner's notoriety for making bloated vanity projects that no one wanted to watch. And for many, it symbolized the death of Costner's time as one of Hollywood's most bankable stars. Also, the commercial and critical failure of the movie pretty much ended his career as a major Hollywood director. Here are some honorable mentions. Let's start with one of the most infamous bombs ever, Cutthroat Island in 1995. Gina Davis starred in this pirate adventure, directed by Rennie Harlan, who was also her husband at the time. It was funded by Coralco Pictures, the studio behind Terminator 2 and Total Recall. They poured almost $100 million into the production. They bet it would revive the pirate genre. But it didn't. The movie only made about $20 million worldwide. The losses were so huge that Coralco Pictures filed for bankruptcy before the movie even finished its theatrical run. So while this movie might not have ended a career, it definitely bankrupted the studio that funded the project. And apart from destroying a beloved studio, it also destroyed a whole genre. You see, the loss was so huge, it scared Hollywood away from pirate movies for almost 10 years. This was until Disney took a chance on Pirates of the Caribbean in 2003, which of course became a mega franchise. Then there's The Adventures of Pluto Nash, technically released in 2002 but filmed back in 1999. This Eddie Murphy sci-fi comedy was shelved for years because the studio knew it had a lot of problems. When it finally came out, it was one of the biggest bombs ever. The budget was $100 million, yet it only grossed $7 million worldwide. The movie's massive failure didn't just bury the film, it also dealt a serious blow to Eddie Murphy's star power at the time. After Pluto Nash bombed, Murphy struggled for years to land roles of the same scale, marking a major downturn in his box office career.